Good evening, everybody, all those watching us on YouTube. Welcome to this evening's Planning Committee meeting on Tuesday, the 18th of November. Before we start the meeting, I'd just like to read the official disclaimer. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Biddulph Town Council YouTube page. The aim is that decision-making should be transparent and in the public domain, which will involve more of our community in local democracy. By being in this council chamber, you are consented to be being recorded and for your image to be added to YouTube. The images and sound may be used for training purposes. Any views expressed are the speaker's own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Biddulph Town Council. Please read the guidance on recording in public meetings policy if you need more information. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting. So, starting on the agenda item 45, apologies and approval of any substitute members. Do we have any apologies?
With apologies this evening from Councillor Hawley and Councillor Eardley.
Do we have any nominated substitute members?
Not for this one.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on, item 46, declarations of interest. Does anybody need to disclose any pecuniary interests and dispensations? Undeclared. So, do we have any other interests to declare? Nothing for that. But obviously, if anything comes up through the meeting and you realise you know one of the applicants, then feel free to make the statement at the time. You with us, Councillor Yates? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so minutes. These minutes have been through the council meeting, last council meeting. Do I need to go through them, or is anybody happy to propose them and have them seconded without me going through everything? Proposed by Councillor Rogers, seconded by Councillor Yates.
Chair, if I may, Chair.
You may share, yes.
Just on declarations of interest. I think it was into the meeting, but I see it's noted on the feedback from SMBC as well. The one that we did for 15 New Street, I declared an interest in.
We did, yes, that's in the minute.
I also declared an interest in the one for Leonard's Farm, and that doesn't seem to have been.
It is, yes, but at the bottom, Councillor Jones declared an interest at the bottom of page.
Oh, there it is. Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't on the feedback thing from SMBC.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem at all.
Well, no, thank you, sir.
Okay, no problem at all. Right, so can I have a show of hands for everyone? Except those are true record of the meeting? Right, thank you. In that case, talk amongst yourselves while I just sign these off.
I got one without success.
You've got one. Yes, Madam Chair. Okay, right. Moving on to item 48, standing agenda item to consider any proposed sites for local listing. Have any sites been suggested for local listing?
None that I've seen, unless anybody's got anything they want to talk about.
Take that as a no then, nothing in the room. Thank you very much. So moving on to consider applications received.
Yes, we've had a slight formatting issue on the agenda. So if you wouldn't mind, number 49 should be the current applications, which are listed on the agenda. And then item 50 will then be the supplementary ones. So we'll renumber when it comes to the minutes, but there's just been a slight formatting issue there.
So
all the information's there.
Item 49 to consider applications. We have two applications that were received in advance of the agenda being sent out. If we'd like to have a look at those, so the first application is Mr. Stanmore, SMD 2025-0462. Mr. Stanmore of Marshgate Farm, Marshfield Lane, Biddulph. And it's the proposed development is the installation of a package treatment plant to serve dwellings that were approved under a previous application, SMD 2024-0516. There was no pre-application advice. It's the installation of a subterranean foul drainage treatment plant in the field adjacent, basically across the road. You can see on the map here, it's in the green belt. This is the development that was approved. This is the treatment plant. If I think it's on. That is the detailed location of where the treatment plant will be in relation to the development buildings over here. It's buried, so it shouldn't impact the green belt in terms of visibility. It's going to be all underground in the middle of the field. Obviously, no materials. It's a standard self-contained treatment plant. They did provide a brochure. I don't know if you've seen the brochure, but it's a fairly standard self-contained system. It is in the green belt. There's no BNG because it's too small. It doesn't impact any of our neighbourhood plan policies, as far as I can tell. My record, it's supporting the infrastructure for a previously approved conversion that was, approved by the council, district council. And my recommendation would be essentially just to refer the petition to the planning officer to ensure compliance with greenbelt regulations. I don't think we can make any statement on it because it's supporting a previously approved development. Does anyone want? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I wouldn't disagree with what you've said. It seems like a laudable scheme to me. I'm just wondering, is it self-contained? Is it self-contained or does clean water come out of it somewhere?
I believe it's a treatment plant.
Stay with all drains and all that.
Right. Let me find the appropriate application, which I think is there.
There's another one down at the visitor centre was self-contained, but clean water comes out the back of it and goes into the street. So I'm just wondering what happens to the
Okay, hang on. Here we go. See if it'll pull this one up. There we go. This is the system. I'm assuming that, yeah, from that one would suggest that there is actually an outflow from it, similar to the unit at the visitor centre.
Yeah. So my concern, my only, not concern, but my only thing to comment on would be where does that water go, and is it going to impact surface water or the state of the field surrounding it? Is it going to go boggy? Is it going to run down to somebody else's ground and cause a problem? I think I would just comment and say, subject to satisfactory management of the waste.
I think that's a very good addition. Yes, thank you. So essentially,
It's a loadable skip. You know, that's not like stuff, and it's better than going up to put stuff down the sewer pipes, isn't it?
Okay, so we modify the recommendation. So basically, refer it to the planning officer to ensure compliance with greenbelt regulations and appropriate disposal of the outflow from the unit. Yes. Are we happy with that? Do you have a second for that?
Who's your
Proposal was councillor was. I'm
proposing?
proposing it.
Oh, okay.
I'll second it because there isn't a stream close to it, so that does need to be addressed. Yeah.
Right. So can I have a show of hands for those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. So, okay, moving on to SMD 2025-0457. This is 100 Congleton Road. I think we know that. I think we know where this one is, but I can't pull it up. We've got time. This is the plot on the corner by the roundabout from the leisure centre. Right, it's a proposed single-storey side and rear extension with terraced over the side extension. There is no pre-application advice. It is not in the green belt, and BNG isn't applicable because it's a householder application. It's proposed the demolition of an existing conservatory with possible repurposing of the materials to add a garden room at the end of the existing two-storey rear extension, and the construction of a single-storey side extension with roof terrace over along the full length of the extended property. Walls will be red-facing brick to match the existing. Roof will be the existing roof is plain clay tiles. It's proposed that the extension will have a EDPM rubber over a flat roof. There are no details in the application in terms of windows and doors. The removal of existing trees and hedges is required according to the application form, but there are no details of planting or landscaping materials on any of the drawings provided. On one of the drawings, and I think this one is find appropriate drawing. the drawing, a solar array is identified here at the end on the, what's labelled as the first floor plan. But there's no information on that on the original plan, and there's no details been given about that. There are no supporting documents, but I would suggest that we do require additional information of their proposal. They need to remove trees or hedges. Looking at the neighbourhood plan policies, the only policies that I believe are impacted are critical road junctions, but I think it's far enough away from the roundabout at the end of the bypass not to impact that, particularly bearing in mind there's no anticipated additional traffic. They're not building more houses, they're just extending an existing property. Sustainable drainage, I'm concerned because on the plans it shows much larger blocked areas, but there's no indication or, and say, a significantly larger roof area over the terraces. So there's no reference at all to landscaping materials. Whether we've got sustainable drainage on that hard landscaped area, we've got no idea. In terms of design, there's one. I think that I don't think it complies with that. And my concern on this is that there have been 3 previous applications for this site. One was refused for a new dwelling considerable time ago. There were 2 approved extensions, one for an extension and one for a conservatory. I've said on this, the plans aren't available for reference for the original property plan, but looking back through the system, the original footprint of the building is to this line here. So it's basically, that was the original building. The conservatory was put on the side here, and that's being demolished and potentially repurposed to put this sun lounge on the back. This here is the 2-story extension that was originally added. So there's that's over 2 floors. I would suggest that with the addition of this, that is larger than the conservatories on there. It's considerably larger than the property, and I think it's a consideration for overdevelopment. My recommendation on this would be to refuse it on the grounds it's overdevelopment when you refer back to the pre-1995 property, the original property rather than the extended property. Also having concerns regarding surface water drainage and landscaping needs further information in order that we make an accurate assessment. I don't think there's insufficient explanation in the plans that are provided on those grounds. We should recommend refusal. That's my view. Comments from the floor.
May I make a point?
You can make a point.
I think it would be remiss of us not to note somewhere in our recommendations that we are also a neighbour. That's our allotment plot site behind it.
Right, okay.
So I don't think that prevents us from making comment because neighbours are obviously able to make comments, but yes. I think we should acknowledge that as town council. Okay, right. I'd overlooked that. Thank you, Chief Officer. Okay.
To have a stronger opinion one way or the other, but as I'm trying to catch up, I think I read somewhere that there's rules over the original property and what percentage it can be extended by.
Yes.
We're at 50% from memory.
I think it varies depending upon interpretation between 30% and 50%. And I would suggest that that alone itself probably represents the best part of 50% of the original property. Yep. With this here, we're looking at almost 100%, I would suggest, increase in livable area.
I have to say, having driven past that a lot of times, it is raised from the road off Congleton Road. It's pretty well shielded from Thames Drive. So it's quite a big plot, I think. Yes. So it's not really going to be an eyesore or anything, but there's rules there.
I think when you look at, let's say, the plot itself is a reasonable size. This is the footprint of the existing property with the extension, the conservatory there, and then the extension on the side here. So yeah, it's going to be well within the boundaries of the property, but I'm just concerned in terms of the overall scale. Councillor Yates, Jones.
I think it's worth going on to Google Maps and looking at the actual physical terrain picture, because the reality of it is that it is a very big plot. Most of that building, which looks spanking new, is obviously very long-standingly pre-existing, and the veranda, well, the sort of veranda on top where they're building underneath is actually just like an infill. And it's certainly, if you go on the map view on top on terrain, you'll see it's almost an infill. So it doesn't actually make a massive material difference to the use of the plot.
You're suggesting looking at the on the top of this.
We need to look
That's
on top
view from the road, okay?
from the road, yeah, which I'm pretty, now if you just really zoom in on it, zoom in as far as you can.
It goes all very blurry and awful.
Didn't on my phone. But the verandas exist, and effectively, if you just to the top left hand of the pin there, what you're doing is you're filling in that shadow line.
You're basically taking that's the existing conservatory. You'll go all the way along here to the back of the property, and then
The reality of it is,
that conservatory and slightly bigger actually on the end here. Yeah.
but the reality of it is, looking at the aspects and things, that is pointing towards very open ground towards Biddlebrook and beyond. So there's no neighbours. It's very well screened by trees. The view from Colington Road will look almost as identical as it does at this moment in time. So in the circumstances, size of plot, added to aspect, I generally, I think if it's built, I think it'd be an improvement to it. I've been running.
So let's have a look from Thames Drive, shall we, from there?
No,
That's interesting. You can ride it from Thames Drive and it's all been fuzzed out.
it just doesn't exist
No,
as
it
far
doesn't.
as the neighbours are concerned. So
Behind the tree line. I say,
in respects overdevelopment, you could use a synonym of overbearing. In this context, it's certainly, I can't see how it could be.
From a drainage point of view, that piece of land next to the property is always very, very wet. It's got a problem with moles as well. It's ground slopes, so it probably won't make it.
No increase in people in the house, though, is there? It's making the house.
they're making the house significantly larger. Right. Okay. I've got two more speakers that want to come in. Councillor Jones and then Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I won't be long. I wholeheartedly, Councillor Yates said exactly what I was going to say. It's a big building on a very big plot. And it's not going to look any different from the old size I got. A bit cheerish. I understand the real regulations on percentage of visual dwelling and all that, but it's a big place. No, I don't have any issues with it.
That's Councillor Yates. I'll come back to you in a second. Oh, another speaker first. Okay. Right. Okay. So you're essentially agreeing with Councillor Yates on that one. Okay. Right. Councillor Smith.
Would propose no adverse comments and would be refer to SMDC to make a decision over development.
Okay. That seems a reasonable compromise.
We note the
Increase in size.
development, but in this case, I think that is over. You know what I'm saying?
Development, but yes. Okay. Right. Councillor Yates, you wanted to come.
So I was just going to say, I think because we aren't, we're an advisory function, a consultee. I think in this case, I think no adverse comments is absolutely fine. That was going to propose. It's not as if we're coming down wholeheartedly in favour of it. We're leaving it to the professionals without actually adding anything to concern as well.
It might. Yes. Okay. Because we haven't got any landscaping plans on this, have we?
I think that's possibly a recommendation.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. So the chief has pulled a relevant point there in terms of, because we're an adjacent neighbour, the landscaping, we really need to have information on the landscaping. So I think what we've got here is a proposal from Councillor Smith that we send it through with no adverse comments, but highlight our concerns regarding overdevelopment and the lack of information on sustainable drainage and landscaping of the site in terms of the reference in the application that trees and hedges need to be removed in order to do the building work.
I don't think I have any concerns about overdevelopment, Chair. I'll just say, I would say that we note it. That's what I would say. It's a concern.
I'll be honest. I think when you look at the degree of development of the property, the fact this is the third set of extensions on it, there is a concern there that it is being pushed too far, in my mind. But we highlight it as being the potential for overdevelopment because of the nature of the extension on extension.
With respect, Chair, the overdevelopment rules are there to stop tiny bungalows, amongst other tiny bungalows, suddenly growing like Lego to a monster. This is a big building anyway, on its own plot, a big plot. And bigger house being built there in the first place. I don't think anybody had anything to say about it.
It is in,
I'm not going to say I've got any concerns about it, Chair. I note the development rules.
well, okay, in that case, we'll refer it to the decision by the planning officers, noting that the
There's a
the
potential.
potential for overdevelopment to be considered, but we do require information, or we suggest they require information on the landscaping, the drainage, and associated issues in order that we can ensure that it complies with INF 2 for the neighbourhood plan.
Happy for me.
Okay. Councillor Jason, do you want to say
I was
something?
just saying, just request that any approvals are sympathetic to both shielding and neighbourhood properties and the recreational space which is adjacent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have we got that?
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, so we've got effectively, you're happy with that as a proposal?
It's a very adapted version of what I said, but yes.
Okay, can I have a second for that then, please? Yep. I think Councillor Norris's hand up went there first, so, sorry, not Councillor Orton, there first. Can I have a show of hands, please? Okay, right. Thank you very much. Right. What I failed to say on the last one was that we weren't going to send that through to the previous one, to the working group. And I was originally suggesting we did send this to the working group, but I think as we've gone through with NAC, then there's probably no need for that either. But we have. Okay, right. Thank you. Okay. So those were the two that were notified to us in advance. Okay. So moving on to
Supplementaries.
supplementaries. Okay. So see where we are. So supplementary was SMD 2025-0403. Find that.
There's another one on the email that was sent out in advance.
That was the one that's coming up with an appeal at the end.
Okay.
That was SMD 2025-0107. Yeah, no, that was the original comment sent from May with the planning officer's grounds for refusal. Okay, so we'll come back to that when we come to appeals at the end. Right. Okay. So moving on, this is Miss Andrea Godfrey of Acre Farm, Cattery, Crowborough Road, Last Edge. So if we put this on as Acre Farm, Cattery, right. Okay. This is Acre Farm, Cattery on Crowborough Road. It's just into Biddle South, out of Biddle's Moor. The proposed development is replace an existing redundant structure on the property with a new purpose-built cattery unit. The purpose of the new unit will be for cat boarding to assist with the existing business. There was no pre-application advice. It is in the green belt, as you can see from the big green hatching. There are no footpaths anywhere near it. It's BNG isn't applicable because it's de minimis. It's below the limit, the size limit for BNG to be applicable. It's the demolition of an existing stable block shed and the construction of two purpose-built cattery units which extend beyond the boundary of the existing building that's being demolished. The walls, the existing is a timber feathered edge walls, but the proposed will be a UPVC frame with toughened glass insulated panels. The roof, the existing roof is corrugated metal sheets. The proposal will have a UPVC frame with solid insulated sheets. The doors are existing timber doors, and proposed will have a UPVC framework, insulated panel, and toughened glass. Right. So, you find the appropriate picture. There we go. Right. So, this is essentially the shed that's being knocked down, and this is the footprint of the two cattery units that are being put in its place. The existing building is approximately 8 metres by 8 metres, which is 67 square metres, and the proposed buildings will be two units at 14.9 by 4.3 metres, which is 128 metres. So there's about a 60 square metre increase in size. No supporting documents. It impacts on 3 neighbourhood plan policies as far as I can tell. Enterprise, tourism and development. This is the expansion of a current rural business with the addition of 1.5 full-time employees. Going forward, it impacts on sustainable drainage. and it complies with that on the grounds that they're providing via drainage via soakaway, which is one of the preferred options for in the neighbourhood plan booklet. There's one for the design. It's purpose-built category units consistent with the existing business on the property. I would suggest that we recommend approval subject to compliance with the Greenbelt regulations because it's the expansion of an existing rural business that will bring additional employment to the area. I have Councillor Redfern, Councillor Smith. Councillor Redfern.
Certainly second that, Councillor. And it's the person who has the business now is not the person I had dealings with in the past. But the shed that we're talking about was actually originally built as a dog grooming area.
Right.
And
additional information I wasn't aware of.
Yeah. And it was quite a difficult application at the time. There were various objections from neighbours because there was a feeling that the business was being taken away from a cat business to a more general dog grooming business and the associated noise and nuisance that might bring. It was, I believe, it did go through eventually.
It did.
After some modifications that were made. And I must admit that since that period of time, as I say, those original owners have now moved on to now under a new thing. And I would certainly support it. It's a well-used business and provides a very important need, I feel. People, particularly if they're going on holiday and things such as that, provide a refuge for their pets. It is obviously has to comply with, I would imagine, all the usual regulations. If you ever have been up there, there's a number of wooden huts, which I presume are quite heavy now to upkeep. Present level of experiencing. These being UPVC would be much lower maintenance. I think it's, as I say, I would welcome it.
Thank you, Councillor Redfern. Councillor Smith, you wanted to comment on this, didn't you?
Not seeing much to say, just I'd be in support of the application subject to any Greenbelt contraventions. It's fine.
Absolutely, that's why I would reckon. I think we are, because of our role as the owners of the neighbourhood plan, this is developing business in our area. I think we should be encouraging it and therefore recommending approval unless there is a contravention of the Greenbelt regulation. Anyone else want to go?
It's my under if they're wooden buildings for a cattery, they've been banned, and they have to take wooden buildings out and replace them with PVC or the suitable material. Yeah. And that's this for a long time now.
This is the proposed buildings that they're replacing it with. They do look very functional and a good design and robust for that area and the hostile environment that is Biddulph.
No, it's Biddulph.
Sketch.
Yeah, right. So we have a proposing this, seconded by Councillor Redfern. Show hands, please, for those in favour. Okay, I think that's recommend approval subject to compliance with Greenbelt regulations.
Cat under the hot tin roof.
Yeah.
With reference to the comment, it was actually referred to the fact the Planning Commission had already been approved for a different building prior to that. Yes, so that's right. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to.
It'll become 51.
It'll become 51. Decisions, notices received from the District Council. Having quickly scanned through these, the District Council planning decisions reflect very accurately our suggestions to them. Therefore, they've obviously got it all right. So I don't think there's anything there particularly of note other than the refusal, which we'll come to as the details of that were in the notes. Essentially, we were suggesting that it should be refused. This is the Leonard's Farm Hot Lane demolition of a steel frame building, derelict house and construction of a 4-bedroom replacement on the grounds that it needed ecological surveys, it wasn't compliant with Greenbelt regulations, and additional information on boundary treatments, etc. And the district council came back with that it was inappropriate development, it would harm the green belt. While it be the same use, it would be materially larger. Development does not therefore provide any of the exceptions that appear in Chapter 13 of the NPPF. We'd also introduce new design elements that would be at odds with the vernacular architecture of the rural area, would be harmful to the character and appearance of the area, would conflict with the local plan policies and the neighbourhood plan, and therefore it was rejected. Which moves us on to item 51, appeals, which you have before you. I think I sent out, this is SMD 2025-0107. This was Mr. and Mrs. Daniels of Hillview Farm, Tower Hill Road, Mowcop, for a replacement farm dwelling. I sent you out our original observations on it, where we were recommending refusal in that we needed additional information on materials, site plan, landscaping and drainage. And the SMDC mission was refused in July. I'll come back to you in a second. In that the proposed development would be inappropriate development harm to the green belt. Essentially material, while the same use, it would be materially larger. It would not provide for the exceptions, essentially the same referencing as they've just done for the latest refusal. We'd also the highways feedback suggested that they needed information to show that the 3 distinct parking spaces, and that information hasn't been provided. I've not seen anything on the plan about that. So really the question is, do we stand by our original? Do we want to make any amendments? I've got Councillor Rogers and now Councillor Yates. Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. Now we've got more information. Personally, I've got no issues with it. It's a large building in the middle of nothing, basically, which you can't see from the road at all. It's a very successful businessman in the area, which we all know. I won't mention the name. Just trying to increase his living where he lives, in a ground that you can't see from anywhere. Basically, he just wants to make it better. He's where he lives. Access has been there for many, many years with HGV, and that was never brought up on the previous owner.
Okay, I think
you look at the site plan, you go to the overhead plan of where this says, I know exactly where it is, and I defy anybody to find it off the road. It's not visible off the road at all. And we're going back to what we had that long discussion on the previous one about down the road. I won't mention the name of that one, but we're all here, about a large development on his own property, which nobody could see.
So
this is exactly the same.
The additional information been provided?
There is actually an additional piece of information. Let's find that.
All good on him. He's a successful businessman. He wants a bigger house.
There is
that?
Right. Thank you, Councillor.
Planning.
Right.
But we just on the last one.
Councillor Rogers. Thank you. Right. They have submitted a fairly extensive document on the case for grounds for appeal, but there is nothing in here that addresses the highway's concern about parking, about not having information on parking spaces. There's nothing in there that we picked up on that the garage and car parking, because it was going to a 4-bedroom property and required additional parking spaces. And there was nothing that picked up on our concerns about sustainable drainage, natural environment features and urban edge in terms of providing any information on the landscaping and the actual how they would deal with any extra runoff water. So from our concerns, there's nothing in here that actually addresses any of those. Okay, so Councillor Yates, you want to make a comment?
The comment I was making is that we recommended refusal in the context of we can't really recommend refusal as such, but due to a lack of information.
Yep.
And I would have sort of expected that between hearing the feedback from ourselves, which was legitimate feedback, and actually going to forward with the planning, they would have used that as a checklist to say, oh, I need to provide this, and this before I get to planning, and therefore I've got more of a chance of it going through okay. I'm not convinced from what I've seen is that we've had all the information which we require to make a different decision, to be perfectly honest. I'd love to see where it is. I understand, people like to sort of do things to the properties and whatever, but it's not the Wild West out there. And all you're asking for is you're raising legitimate concerns, which may well be addressed in the planning application, but you just need evidence to suggest that it does. So I can't see how, it'll go through appeal. The planning inspector will make a site visit. He will take on board comments from various people who made representations, including the town council, and he'll look to satisfy himself that those concerns are adequately addressed, and then make a decision on giving the planning commission. It's as the appeal process is really outside of our hands, but it very much gives both the appeal and the inspector a checklist of things to sort of make sure that they comply before they go forward. So, following on from Councillor Rogers, if it's a case of doing something sympathetically unseen, which doesn't adversely affect the character, then just go through the process.
As I say, in the documents here that were provided, there's nothing that actually addresses the concerns that we had. There are no additional documents that address those concerns. So the question for us at this meeting here is, are we happy to sit with the decision that we made at the previous meeting, having highlighted the issues where it doesn't doesn't provide sufficient information for us to make a decision, or to address the issues that are identified in the neighbourhood plan that require addressing? Councillor Smith.
I think it's just the process, like Councillor Yates says. We're not going to change our receiving.
Okay.
Just receiving the notice of the appeal, aren't we? But we can't do anything.
So essentially, we're noting the appeal. We don't believe that there's any grounds that have been presented that would cause us to change the original decision that we made, and therefore that's it. Okay, right. Thank you. In that case, that takes us to the end of the agenda. So I now declare tonight's planning meeting closed at 6:07. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.